All right. Hello and welcome. We are waiting for everyone to join us. If you're just popping in, this is Unlocking Your Global Career Potential with Language Skills, hosted by IES Abroad, and we're joined with some lovely alums, myself included, actually. I will say first, introducing by name, my name is Chelsea. I am an IES Abroad Granada alum. I work with the marketing team, and I have with us today Kathleen Diamond and Naomi Bowman, both absolute experts in their field. They have so much awesome knowledge to share with us today that I can't wait to share and hear. While we wait for people to come into the chat, feel free to drop in any languages that you are learning yourself or practicing. I have a feeling we have a couple polyglots in this space. I'm a wannabe polyglot, but one day. We'll see if our chat starts exploding.
Are we still silent? Nobody can hear us yet?
No, we are on.
We're live.
Oh, good.
Hello, world.
Hello, everyone. We are working with technology on a lovely Tuesday afternoon, so bear with us as we do our best. But
Well, it's a Tuesday afternoon is relative.
oh yeah, right.
It's relative.
What time is it where you are? I don't know.
We're talking global here.
Naomi is so kind to join us from, you'll have to pronounce the name of the city one more time.
Wiesbaden, Germany.
Lovely. Well, Naomi has been traveling all over the world. I'm sure you'll share so much about it. We're just going to wait for a couple more people to pop in.
And I'm in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley in Upper Virginia. And it has been raining and raining and raining. So we are very green right now.
Hey, I love the silver lining there. Rain does bring lovely green. Chicago is actually unseasonably pretty warm right now. We're happy with it, so we'll take it. I think I'm getting a thumbs up from my team that we can get started. Excellent. Okay. Without further ado, I hope we teased it enough. Like I said, I am so happy to introduce Kathleen and Naomi with me in this space. I'd love for you both just to do a quick introduction, briefly share where and when you studied abroad, and then let us know what languages do you speak. Maybe we'll start with Kathleen.
I'm happy to lead the pack.
Lovely.
I am very happy to tell you that I studied in Nantes, France, and it was well last century. And I think I have amused Chelsea a couple of times in other little conversations that we've had, that I actually went to France from New York City on a very small ship called the MS Aurelia. She was small. She was run by the Greeks, and she took us students from New York to Le Havre in France. And then from there, we had to take a bus. We went through Rouen and then to Paris, and then we got on a train and finally arrived in Nantes. Now, today you can do all of that just so fast you can't even blink. But I've been asked, what languages do I speak? Well, obviously some French, but my story goes back a long, long time to my parents and their choice of their world and their profession. My father worked for Pan American World Airways, and his first assignment was in the Republic of Panama. So I was born in Miami, Florida, but my mother had to take me in her arms and get a passport picture together. And off we went to the Republic of Panama. And from there, we were in 7 different countries until I was 7. And by the time I was 7, we stayed pretty much for about another 7 years in the wonderful place called Caraballeda, Venezuela. And that's where I really finished up my 6th grades, and I had all of my education in Spanish. So I speak Spanish, and I was, of course, speaking English at home. But then I got to the 6th grade, and my parents had a little challenge. because I kind of thought I was done with school. But oh no, we were going to continue. So they sent me to boarding school in Barbados. And
Wow.
it was in Barbados that I was introduced to French, because all British girls, even in the Caribbean, study French. So I fell in love with France and I fell in love with French. And I then made the decision to do the University of Florida and then my junior year abroad in Nantes. So my languages are English and French and Spanish. Are you happy with that answer, Chelsea?
I am so happy with that answer. And I just want to note that we had some lovely photos up there on the screen just to kind of illustrate your story and all the places you have lived and been. You told me too, when we spoke about that story earlier, it was 7 days on the boat to get to France.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I think sometimes our students just need a little reminder, like when you're upset about a 1 hour flight delay or, a layover. Some people had to take 7-day boat trips to go.
It was bad. And it was not a fancy luxury ship by any means. It was not the Queen Mary or the Queen Elizabeth or any of those. It was basic. When the water got too rough, they just put down some napkins across our table so that our food could just slip around. It was bad.
Well, comfort with ambiguity and some challenges is a skill learned from study abroad. So I think that is very insightful. You definitely got that. Naomi, I'm going to turn it over to you. I would love to hear a little bit about yourself, where you studied abroad, when you studied abroad, and your language skills.
Okay. Excuse me 1 second. It's been a really long day of talking, so I apologize. I've been on microphone on and off for many hours already today, so my voice is a little tired. Anyway, I am an alum of Vienna in the 1980s, so 85. In fact, I hate saying how long ago that was, but boy, were the 80s a great decade to be abroad, and I loved the music scene. We won't get into that story right now, but I grew up with not with such an international background. Excuse me. I was afraid of this.
Using your voice.
I didn't have the international background that Kathleen had growing up, but I definitely had the wanderlust. And my parents had lived in Japan, and my name is Japanese, and so are my siblings' names. So I grew up with the wanderlust, but I lived in the States and in California and only had some high school and college language. I had French in high school and then German a little bit before I went to Vienna. But I chose Vienna because I had switched to German, and the language requirements for Vienna were not as strict as the other language study abroad requirements. So I was able to go. And I thought I had some German, and I got there and realized, wow, this is a very foreign place. Now it feels a lot more international, if you will. But in those days, Vienna was very much an Eastern Central European post-war city. Nobody spoke English, and I couldn't understand a word of anybody's German. So I was very, very intimidated when I arrived and thought I could speak, and I couldn't. So getting groceries and getting food. There weren't grocery stores. You had to go to a market to buy things. All of these things were very challenging for me at that time. I continued with my German after Vienna. I was determined not to continue being intimidated by this language and to learn it. And I have had an international career my whole life. We'll be talking more about that.
Yes.
But I just got back from working for a week in my beloved city of Vienna, and it was a fabulous experience. I felt like it was home. We were in very many familiar places. So this is a picture. I work with interpreters. That's what my company does. We provide event services that include interpreting and other language services for events. So this is a sound isolation booth that is built in the Hofburg Palace in Vienna. These are the interpreters working for a wonderful, incredible dinner in this iconic palace. And you can show a couple more of the photos. These are all from last week in Vienna. And being able to, with my job, go back to this city that I lived in so many decades ago and feel right at home and work in the most spectacular venues of the city was just a thrill beyond words.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I speak German. I speak a smattering of a little bit of French, a little tiny bit of Italian, but I have spent my life surrounding myself with professional linguists.
I love that. And I think your story, Naomi, is so important for students to hear. Like, obviously, Kathleen, how amazing to grow up speaking a language. I think Naomi and myself are probably a little jealous of that. I myself have been curious. You know, there's literal studies that show how your brain processes language differently if you're raised in it. So hats off to you. But for those of us, like myself included, I grew up in the Midwest, Ohio. No one spoke anything but English. But I think if you have the tenacity and the drive, everyone can participate in a career in languages. But I don't.
I do
Chelsea,
want to add. Oh, sorry, Kathleen.
I was going to say, Naomi, Chelsea, the boat ride wasn't my most important highlight of my.
Oh, sure. No, of course not. We're going to talk about
record.
ALC Bridge, which I hope is up there in your highlights.
For the record, I like Naomi. I had learned a little bit of French from this French mistress in Barbados, but I didn't speak French, for heaven's sakes. But what IES did for me was to prepare me in laboratories, get me ready and get me set so that I could then go into the Faculté des Lettres. And I worked my you-know-what off. I worked to learn French. And I am very proud of what a fantastic opportunity it's given me and what we're going to be talking about this afternoon. So IES, I mean, it was extremely, it shaped me in many, many ways, including the director, Madame Hugues. She was in the picture we looked at just a minute ago. She was the first woman I really saw sitting behind a big desk. I mean, she was the directrice. And she impressed me and shaped me more than I could have imagined or that she could have imagined at the time. So I just want to make sure that everybody hears this afternoon that there was more than a boat ride.
Oh, yes, of course. No, you studied abroad for a full year, right, Kathleen?
I did.
Yes.
I did.
And I think
in the 60s.
Learners, I think for the language learners, like I went abroad for a semester and I honestly really regretted not staying longer. I know some people don't have that ability with their college schedules and things like that. But I just think it's great to hear from both of you. You're like the proof in the pudding, right? Like you're probably not going to learn French or German or whatever language in 4 months in a country. That's not a realistic goal, but it sets a foundation. It gives you connections that can really build into this career. So I want to move into talking about ALC Bridge. Speaking of careers and languages, Kathleen, could you share an overview about ALC Bridge and talk a little bit more about how study abroad really influenced you in finding ALC Bridge?
I'll be happy to do that. But Chelsea, give me a chance to at least talk to the audience about my particular journey as a professional in languages. I graduated with a master's degree from the University of Florida in 16th century literature. Rabelais was my man. And of course, when I came out into the job market, I could teach. Or I could teach. So I taught. And I taught for a couple of years, and I realized it's just not where I wanted to spend my professional life. I wanted to do something else. I didn't know exactly what, but it turns out that what I became was an entrepreneur. Since I couldn't find jobs outside of the classroom, I decided to create a company. And I created a company called Language Learning Enterprises in Washington, D.C., and spent 30 good years developing it, growing it into a mid-sized company where we offered language services. in not only language instruction, but translation and interpreting and localizing and testing in the whole range.
Kathleen,
And
I don't
in
mean to
so do,
interrupt you, but I wanted to hear, I think you were at like the cutting edge of telephone interpreting, right?
that is correct. One of the old pioneers, as they say.
Wow.
But I also joined the Association of Language Companies. They
Mhm.
were founded back at the beginning of this century, and I was lucky enough to be a part of that whole movement, if you will.
Yeah.
And in so doing, I found so many of my colleagues had challenges. They kept saying, we were having difficulty finding good linguists, good, global talent. And so the origin story behind ALC Bridge is it is the answer to what we as employers, language company owners, can do to find good, prepared linguists and language people, language lovers,
Yeah.
to come work in our company. So what is it? What is it? It is a platform designed for the employers, our language companies, who are
Mhm.
seeking the language talent, for educators, people like IES, people like our academic partners, every universities across the United States and overseas, Indonesia, um, to prepare their students, maybe even tweak their academic programs to teach the skills that we need. And then for the students, for the career seekers, the job seekers, it's to introduce them to this industry, which even today is still not as well known as it should be. So that is what the concept of the ALC Bridge is, behind the scenes, and why we wanted to bring it to you at IES, because we think we've got lots to offer.
Oh yeah.
And I think I will stop there, and then we'll flesh it out a little bit more
Oh
as we
yeah.
run along this afternoon.
I
Uh,
I I would love. I really hope we can be a stage for ALC Bridge, because I know, had I known about it when I was leaving Granada and crying and wondering when I'm going to speak Spanish again, it would have been very motivating. So I'm really glad that we can have this partnership and connect and hopefully inspire more people in the field.
Well, what before we leave, I just wanted to say it's because what you'll find out is there's so many different kinds of jobs available that certainly didn't pop up in my mind, and perhaps not even in Naomi's mind. We're
Sure.
looking for linguists, but we're also looking for managers and salespeople and engineers. Oh my God, we need engineers. We need language leads. We need community managers. We need you.
That is
Project managers too.
Yes, yes, yes.
So many exciting things.
amazing. I think I have an image to go along with this.
Yes, that would be
Look at
super.
this.
Oh, that's good. This is the good time to share the image. And then Naomi is going to actually talk to you. That we're not just showing you pictures and giving you theories. We've got a real alum with us this afternoon who does it.
Yeah, walking the walk for sure. I know. I think it's just not many people, I think, can comprehend that there's this many. I think everyone has the very kind of like old school interpreter with the little earpiece writing down things. But I would love to hear from you, Naomi. We are in a new era, like telephone interpretation. Kathleen, you've seen it all the way, but Naomi, you are now in the era of AI. And I just would love to hear your thoughts on what's in store. What is it looking like for language careers in the AI era?
That's a great question, and it's a very challenging one to
Yeah.
answer, so you've thrown me a doozy. I'm going to add that on Friday, I met with an AI-focused, tech startup out of Austria,
Mm.
and on Monday, I met with an AI-focused tech startup out of Rotterdam, the Netherlands. So there is a lot of activity in this area. But what does that mean for students who want to work with languages, who think they may want to be an interpreter or a translator? I am going to add that I recently heard from a language industry influencer that translation was all going to be free in 10 years' time. And the entire room went, but not all translation will be free.
Mm,
Good translation and very nuanced, specific translation will not be free. And he also said nothing about interpreting, which is very much a growing area.
yeah.
But with the advent of AI, why study languages? Why focus on a career in languages at all? Because languages are one of the key traits that make us human and connect us to other humans.
Mhm.
Language is nuanced, language involves emotions, language involves context. And anybody who has studied languages understands that there are words in one language and concepts that simply don't exist in another. And when you're learning a language and you can think of the phrase or the concept in one language, but not in your own language that you grew up with, like English, then you know you've made it to a
Yeah.
certain level with that language. And language is what makes us so special and interconnected as humans.
Mhm.
And we need to preserve languages as well. So yes, AI is taking over a lot of work with languages, but not all of it. And humans have to control that AI. It's a tool for us.
Right.
And AI has struggles with those emotional, nuanced, contextual things that provide the richness of communication between humans. So there will always be a place for languages, even with the advent of AI, which everybody must remember is a tool for us humans to make our lives better.
Right.
It's not something to replace the main thing that connects us as humans, language.
I love that answer, Naomi, and I think you touching on nuance is so important there. Like, I don't think AI can ever capture that feeling that you get when you're able to order a coffee in the language of the place that you're in after all the hard work and effort that you've put in, or being able to have a conversation and connect with someone. So,
I'd
great.
just like to add a couple of anecdotal stories from last week where I was working in Vienna. I mentioned that I really was intimidated when I got off the plane and realized I couldn't get my groceries the way I needed to because I didn't have the German. And I persevered and I tried to learn German. I am by no means fluent. I work with professional linguists who are simultaneous conference interpreters. I'm not at that level.
Ooh,
But I worked in Vienna last week, mostly in German, conducted meetings in German, site visits, all kinds of things. And I got so many compliments on my German. And I thought, I'm so glad I pushed through and I kept that perseverance. But I spoke to every taxi driver. I worked with locals. I spoke with the facility managers of the venues that we were working in German. And I loved talking to each of these people and hearing their personal stories. Many of them were immigrants. So we were speaking German, but it wasn't either of our first language. And that connection with people and working with them, there's nothing that can replace that.
100%. I love that answer so much. Thank you, Naomi. Um, I'm going to keep the spotlight on you for a minute. You've already shared so much about your career, but I think it's safe to say that you are really living the dream. You know, you persevered with learning a language, started with study abroad, and well, you started in school, helped with study abroad, and now you're in this space where you're fluent. It sounds like to me, if you're, I mean, yeah, you're doing the thing. But many students want to find a way to study abroad after their programs, right? So, um, what advice would you have regarding pursuing a career in language post study abroad? So, you've just gotten back. How would you connect yourself into this world that you're very plugged into?
Sure. Well, it's a lot easier now than when I was trying to do it. We had to um, order books and go to libraries. We didn't have the internet. I had to connect with people and ask questions and travel and visit and go to offices and things like that. There are so many resources out there now and so many opportunities. You need to work on creating the opportunities for yourself. So if you can create a vision of what you're trying to achieve, you can make it happen in most cases, but it takes networking and perseverance. So many people don't realize how many master's degrees programs there are abroad that are open to them, even if you do not have fluency level in the country where you would like to study. There are many programs in Germany, in the Netherlands, at the master's degree level, in France, in Italy, in English. And tip for everyone, it's generally a lot less expensive to study abroad.
I'm gonna say, yeah,
It,
grad school abroad is sometimes
it's gotten more expensive, but it's generally speaking much less expensive than studying in the US. And right now, there are many, many opportunities for US based students to study abroad all over the world. So, studying abroad and doing a master's degree is a wonderful way to create the networks and meet with people and get internship opportunities. There are work permit possibilities as well that are easier now than when I was young. I did get a work permit. Basically, I went to Vienna, I finished up my senior year, and then I went back, and I often joke that I never left. So I have spent 15 years, which isn't a huge amount given how old I am now, but I've spent 15 years of my adult life abroad, and I am absolutely grateful for every single year because it was a lot harder for me coming out of college to be able to make that happen than it is for students now. So there are opportunities. You have to research, you have to get yourself abroad, you need to travel. Take every opportunity you can to network with people on a professional level. Go to conferences, join organizations. The ALC Bridge is a wonderful possibility. Get some experience and just start talking. Talk to all those taxi drivers. You never know where it will lead. I have talked to two people on the airplane recently, and both of them are terrific business opportunities. In fact, one of them I'm hiring. So put yourself out there.
And I have to just say, Naomi, as your I don't know what, but you have built an incredible company.
yes.
And I
Thank
think
you.
that that's what's so hard, I think, sometimes for students to think about. I mean, I am not an interpreter nor a translator. I
Yeah.
happen to be trilingual, but you would not want me in surgery with you. Maybe
Same.
maybe ordering wine, but not in surgery. So what we've done is we know how to hire people. And
Yes.
so when Naomi is talking about these places where she is, she's not in the booth.
No.
She set up the booth, creates the
Yes.
booth. So talk a little bit, Naomi, please,
Yes.
about your
So
amazing company.
we are both entrepreneurs, actually, and that is something I do want to convey to everybody. Be creative and channel your inner entrepreneurial spirit, because that is essential to having an international life. So my company was founded in 1972. I'm now the CEO and owner. It was started by my father, who created and was on the patent team for developing some technology that happened to be ideal for using for conference interpreting, which is United Nations style interpreting. So I grew up with some exposure to this company. And when I finished my master's degree, which I did in the UK, in London, I had to make a choice. I basically had the opportunity to go to Cambridge to do a doctorate in diplomacy, but my father needed help with his company. And I said, well, I think I want to work, because wine tasting for a week in France with the top winemakers in the world sounds like more fun
Yeah.
than working on my doctorate at Cambridge right now. And going on a cruise to Bermuda sounds like an awful lot of fun. And being involved with for space shuttle launches, for NASA, because NASA isn't always just the United States. There have been programs with Italy and with Japan, and we provided conference simultaneous interpreting for 4 space shuttle launches, including one that was launch. So all of the interpreting during launch, during mission from Huntsville, Alabama, and after landing. So my career is never a dull moment. I have worked in castles in Scotland. I have skied in Alaska. I have worked in Japan at the Olympics.
We have
Just
to
all
go
kinds of things. So
then.
here's a photo. This is fun. This was in Vienna. All the photos are from Vienna last week. And I did, by the way, visit IES, and I met with the new director. So she's not that new, but the last couple of years, Saskia Stakovic, and we had a great time. But this is in Vienna. This is a World War II hallway where we were setting up 10 conference booths because there was no room in the very famous building that is in front of this. So we were in the back hallways. This is known as the butterfly hallway because it's adjacent to the Vienna butterfly habitat, which is just behind where I'm standing. There were butterflies the size of both my hands,
Wow.
flying all over the place. So if you have another photo, I can talk about that one too.
You might. I mean, truly, you just get the VIP experience, getting to go kind of behind the scenes. And
yes, it's lights, camera, action. It's like being a roadie in a rock band, but you work for heads of state. Sometimes it's, what am I doing here in Wiesbaden, Germany? We support NATO's support and training for Ukraine. So that's what I'm doing here.
I think I have another photo.
This
too.
is the Music Verein in Vienna. So this is another wonderful venue, very famous place where many of the concerts are held. And we worked inside one of the most beautiful rooms. So
it.
it was an incredible week in Vienna, and Argentina, Peru, flying a helicopter to Machu Picchu, working in Patagonia, Hawaii, just all over the place. India, Brazil
This
last
is how you
year.
get people into the field of language. So even the people who maybe don't think that language careers are for them, I think we get so many students who return back from their experiences and are like, oh, I want to travel more. It sounds like this is a first-class ticket to all kinds of things.
Well, a love of languages
is.
kind of goes along with a love of travel, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about cultures and learning about different ways of not only just different ways of expressing yourself, but different ways of living. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And Chelsea, I know we're going to go off script just a tiny bit, but I would like to talk a little bit more about Madame Hugues, the woman who shaped me so significantly.
Yeah.
So go back to the picture I think I sent you over. I want the attendees to see Madame Hugues. She was the one that was the director in Nantes. And I was very young and very green and inexperienced and trying to learn French and knew nothing much about the whole world. And she just quietly just worked with me and made sure this is an invitation. This is in her home, and she invited a couple of us students to the wedding of her daughter.
Oh.
And I thought it's not the same grandiose scale that Naomi has experienced, but it was so important for our attendees to know how people can influence us in ways we have no way of knowing. So when I came back to the United States and had to, do something like create a company, which is the other photo with people with their phones, is what we were talking about with over the phone interpreting. But it was Madame Hugues who helped me see myself sitting at the big desk.
Yeah.
Isn't it? I mean, and I didn't really understand that until fairly recently in talking about our stories and stuff. And I realized she was the one. I think she said to me, Naomi, I think she said, mais vous êtes très intelligente. Okay, I had to believe her, right?
Yeah.
So just a thank you to IES Abroad.
Oh, what a beautiful story, Kathleen. I love that. I feel like, it's easy for me to say I'm very much in it every day, but I just feel like our staff are so connected and really just there to be kind of that foundation and that stepping stone for global citizens and leaders. And again, you both are the proof in the pudding. I am so glad to hear it, that it was really a experience that catapulted you into these great and important spaces now where you both are. So I want to stay with you, actually, Kathleen. I have a feeling some people who are watching this right now might be saying, yeah, but maybe not me. Like maybe my language isn't up to snuff. So if you're able to, could you talk a little bit more about how they can use their experience, their individual experience with IES Abroad to really open a door to a career in language services, even if they're a little hesitant about their abilities in this moment?
You've asked me a good question, and the answer is a very clear, and I think Naomi and I are sort of living proof.
Yeah.
Neither one of us are working linguists. We're not working interpreters, translators, localizers, testers, even teachers. But we have to hire you. So yes, by definition, we can't have our companies and organizations like our companies, broader than our companies, need to have people who can perform the linguistic services. Yes, for sure.
Right.
And that requires absolute fluency, proficiency in 1, 2 languages, and you have to be tested and go through all kinds of proof. You can't just show up and say, "Oh, I studied French for a little bit and not." No, it's a very serious profession. We've worked hard to professionalize it and to have it recognized as such.
Mm.
But working in the language services means a broader opportunity for anybody who just wants to be around languages, or people who like languages, or people who have passports. When I first started my company, one of the first questions I would ask people is, "Do you have a passport?"
Good question.
And they would
Starting
be like, "Oh boy, this is going to be trouble." But we need people that are project managers, that are account managers, that are in sales. Why sales? Because it's hard to sell language services. And you do a better job at it if you know something about what we do, because our industry is so strong and colorful and results in such exposure to global issues and geography and all these good things. But what's happening right now, which is why I'm excited about this industry, is we're growing because we're comfortable with technology. Naomi's father is quoted as has a terrific quote that, and Naomi will give it to us. Do you remember it exactly?
Yeah, of course. Interpreters will not be replaced by technology. They will be replaced by interpreters who use technology.
That's a great quote.
Exactly right. And that's what we're doing in our industry. So we need engineers. I mean, we need we need people who know how to work with all these great tools that are coming, AI included. We've lived through machine translation in our industry, and everybody said, "Oh, well, that's it. You're done. Nobody's going to want you anymore." So we evolve and we work because our central service is communications, and that is human. So I would say to students, don't worry about how fluent you are. You heard Naomi say it. I'm not fluent. I'm not. I'm very good, but I'm not hiring me to do that work.
Right.
No.
I think that's such a good point to hit home. And I think we're kind of working against a cognitive block, right? Like how interpretation in the language services field is interpreted in the media, right?
But it's so crazy, Chelsea, and so frustrating to my own career. The first thing that people would ask me in a cocktail party was, "Well, how many languages do you speak?" And I said, "Well, my company does Arabic to Zulu."
I love that.
I mean, it was a dumb question.
Yeah, of course. Well, I I think this is so great. And I just think this advice is so important to hit home too, not to keep bringing it back to study abroad, but I think you both would agree with me. The what am I trying to say? Getting passionate about connecting with other people, understanding other cultures, learning languages,
Yes.
that grows so much in your experience abroad. And we have a new group of Gen Z students out in the workforce, and they're very tech savvy. So I'm hearing what you're both saying, and I feel like this is the sign. If any of our students or recent alums are listening, that you totally can go into this field, and a lot of the skills that are gained through study abroad will really benefit you likely in this process. I mean, both of you, sounds like you've had many interviews with candidates for positions in your roles. Would you agree with that statement, that study abroad and the soft and hard skills you learn are really beneficial in this field?
Yeah, for me, it's one of the first things I look at for anybody who works in our company. And obviously, we work with a lot of linguists, but the employee positions in my company are not linguistic positions.
Mm.
The first thing I look for is international experience, international travel, and study abroad. That's more important than your language skills for my company, which sounds a little bit strange. Obviously, I do have employees who are bilingual or in some cases trilingual,
Mm.
but not everybody is. But what I'm really looking for is a team that understands the international life, international culture, has that experience with traveling and preferably living abroad.
And a passport.
Absolutely, Ellen.
Yes, and a
Absolutely.
passport.
And a passport. But I think that what's important for our attendees to know and to understand is that work on all of your other skills.
Yeah.
Keep your, if you got some business going or some finance or some chemistry, keep those skills going strong. And for heaven's sakes, general knowledge, communication skills, common sense, people skills. All of those things are so desirable and so needed in our companies and in our industry.
I absolutely love that. I feel like this is turning into a resume workshop, and I kind of love it. I think
Well,
college Chelsea would have really appreciated this advice. So we've started talking about it a little bit, but before we bring it over to the chat, any final pieces of advice for dealing with imposter syndrome or anything else that you would like to talk about that we maybe haven't touched on yet today about your field and the work that you both do?
go ahead, Nadia.
Yes, if you are really interested in pursuing a linguistic career as possibly an interpreter or a translator, with the not the advent, but the growth of AI, something very important, a couple of important things to note are that specialization in particular areas or verticals is is very important right now. We need experts in particular subject areas. So Kathleen mentioned finance. So financial interpreting or translation specialists is one possibility. Another is gaming,
Yeah.
which is popular among young people.
Wow.
But
Amazing.
that's its own vertical. So as AI encroaches on the language industry, recognizing your area of expertise and focusing on that and building up that specialist knowledge in a particular area is very, very helpful.
That's great advice. Thank you.
And healthcare.
Healthcare is another one.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it feels like, I mean, it's language, right? So it's going to touch everything, but it's always so interesting to hear what parts of the field are growing in particular. Well, Kathleen, I didn't want to cut you off if you had anything else. And if not, we can hop on over to some of our Q&A from the chat.
I'll be happy to do that. I see that we have a question from Jody. Is the language services industry growing? I'd be happy to take that.
Sure, please go ahead.
There's an organization called NIMSY, and they do a lot of data research and reporting for our industry. And they just put out the 24 results. So basically the forecasts of our growth. And they started looking at us in 2018 when they saw our market growth at about 50 billion. These are US dollars. But moving it on up to 2024, we were at 71, call it 72 billion in annual gross revenues. And as we go forward, they have us growing about 5% each year up to reaching $93 billion in 2019 and 2029. So in your span of work easily, you'll see this industry growing. And the reason it's growing is because of all the things we've been talking about. The needs that we have in our companies. And it's not just our companies. I mean, you look at a company like Netflix and you see all the work they're doing with language services. It's the concept of language services that's so important. And gaming, Naomi's absolutely right. They are looking for localizers, engineers, and linguists. And it's a good place to be.
How fun.
So I want to add some of these areas like Netflix and gaming are using a lot of AI, but where I see a huge growth opportunity in the language industry is human assisted, human edited AI. AI is not perfect and it needs human help to be better, and in some cases even usable. We recently had to rescue some very high-profile clients who shall remain nameless, who used AI that had the companies providing the services had what I will call aspirational marketing, saying that they had 99% plus accuracy with AI. And that did not turn out to be the case in reality. And we had to go in and redo those products, if you will, using humans, because it was actually cheaper to start over and do all human than it was to assist and correct the AI. But AI assisted by humans is a huge growth area. It's a huge growth area.
In fact, one of our companies, Naomi, that I just met with recently said that one of their biggest requests for jobs right now is an LLM model trainer.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Large language model. So that's exactly, I mean, I said, what? You already have that as a job description?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a perfect example. Yeah. I do want to add a little story. This week, I had to provide a very high-level, well-known client that everybody knows, I won't name them, with a quote. They wanted an AI solution for a particular set of outcomes, and we provided a human option for them as well. One of the AI quotes was more than twice. It was 2.5 times more expensive to provide the AI than it was to do the service using humans. So AI isn't always cheaper. It depends on how you're trying to do it. Right now, the client needs are so complex. A lot of what needs to be done can't be done effectively with AI. You can do part of it with AI, but then you have to do the rest with human intervention. So
it's like a calculator. It's a tool, it augments.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
I would like to respond to Garrett, and I don't know live stream how to respond on the chat. So it's NIMSY, NIM as in Mary, D, Z as in zebra, I, yes. NIMSY. That's the organization that does the data.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. What a great resource. I wanted to go back into the chat here too. We have a question from Caroline. She asks, do you find that translation to English is the primary necessity of multilingual professionals in the field right now?
Naomi? You're hiring.
No, 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 not into English. Uh, so many languages all over the map. Um, Kathleen?
Arabic to Zulu.
Yes, yes. No, into English isn't the primary that I see. It's so many languages. And I will also add another area that I see growth in the future with AI is what we call languages of lesser diffusion. So these are languages that are not as commonly spoken, and thus the AI large language models don't have a lot of data, and so they're not very good at them. So both preserving and working with languages of lesser diffusion is a big growth area, also for straight translation, but in so many ways.
I think
And
that's great.
it's one of those things, Chelsea, that the public, the general public in the United States doesn't really understand. They think that we're doing all of our work globally or overseas, and really these figures from NIMSY are about the work that we're doing in the United States, servicing the people that come to our country, who are here, that are speaking other languages, with whom we have to speak in their language.
Right.
So Spanish is there's still a huge demand for Spanish, but in every community it could be different. It could be Hmong in one community and Ethiopian in another. And our industry has to be ready to service.
That is so great to hear. I mean, as someone whose partner's family speaks a language that is not found on Duolingo, I'll just say that I totally appreciate the struggle, and I love when I can find more resources. So it's so great to see that there's still so many places for the language services to expand and connect.
Yes. Right now, my team is trying to source English to Mongolian interpreters to work in Sardinia, Italy.
There you go.
I'm like connecting those dots in the map in my mind. That is so, yeah. I mean, it's like the possibilities and connections are endless now that we're such a connected world. The problems of maybe like even 20 years ago, it's just, I don't know, Kathleen, when you were telephone interpreting, if you could have fathomed like the level of growth and expansion.
Well, no, I thought it was pretty exciting, but of course they thought I was a crazy woman. But I guess that was already decided by others before I got onto the stage. But no, I think that the opportunities are so good, and we encourage you to network. I think Naomi used that word just a minute ago, and networking is key. It sounds so clunky but you must do it. And go on the ALC bridge, look at the resources, contact our companies, contact Naomi. She's still hiring. You never know. So you have to sort of think big, and you're already teased and ready to go because you've done IES Abroad. So
right,
follow through.
Strike while the iron is hot, right?
Follow through.
Kathleen, you actually segued perfectly into a question we have here from Jody. It says, Naomi, but I think this could honestly be for either of you. Did your network gained from IES Abroad, classmates, or faculty help you to connect your career in language services? I know, Kathleen, you talked specifically about this director, yes. But Naomi, I don't know if you had anything to add.
Yeah, this is an easy and a hard question to answer at the same time. So in terms of specific people that I met at IES Abroad, connecting me in my work and faculty and that sort of thing, the answer is no. But I am still friends with many people that I went to IES Abroad with. I was in touch with them last week because I was working in Vienna. So I'm like, hey, I just visited IES. And I also had a mentor. Kathleen had a mentor. I had a mentor. I had the opportunity to do an internship with the International Atomic Energy Association. I was convinced by my sister, who had arrived at IES before I did, to do a teaching internship with this one group of people at a high school in Vienna, and she said, "This is how you will meet Austrians at the IAEA. You won't meet Viennese people. You'll be working with people from all over the world. You have to do this." And I did. And I taught for the principal of that school. He also taught a class. He became my mentor. The people that I met through that program were some of my closest friends in the world, came to my wedding. We remained in touch through all these years. Several of them, they're older, so they have now passed away. But IES gave me the foundation. It provided me with that basis to develop my international life and my international career. And in that way, it was absolutely critical.
Oh,
And I would agree 100%. My direct answer is no. I mean, there wasn't a direct, oh yes, I met so and so and I got that client. It wasn't
right.
like that. It didn't help my business career necessarily, but it certainly shaped me. It
Yes.
certainly helped me be a better CEO, and then a better member of associations and a better networker. And here we are. I mean, I didn't learn that at the University of Florida, I don't think.
I love these answers. And I think what you're speaking to is such a kind of universal study abroad experience. Like they might not all go into your field, but there is almost this like butterfly effect that happens. And I don't know about you both, but sometimes I take a step back and I'm like, what if I didn't take this class? Or what if I picked a different country to study abroad in? Or what if I never studied abroad? It's wild to think of how even the tiniest things can have such a big impact later on and have brought you both to such an amazing point in your careers now.
It's pretty special, and I'm celebrating actually. Jody knows this. I have a granddaughter who's going to Barcelona in the fall, next fall, so September to December, with IES Abroad.
Oh,
That's
I'm so
great.
excited. The tech crew behind me is raising the roof, so we're
No
all
pressure, no pressure.
I will add that I prepared my children for the life I always wanted to lead and was living with them.
Yeah.
And so my daughter is a freshman at the University of Leiden in the Netherlands. She's actually in The Hague studying international studies. And she plans to go to Vienna for graduate school and hopes to get an internship at the International Atomic Energy Association.
I love this. I mean, talk about butterfly effect. This is like now
Yes,
a generational impact.
that's why I added it. My son also wants to do his master's degree in Europe as well. So that's his plan.
Oh, great. I see Barcelona is amazing.
Yes.
Oh, very encouraging.
Barcelona is amazing.
Thank you.
I love it so much. Well, I'm checking the chat. I know we're almost up on time. This has been so much fun, both of you. I want to make sure I didn't miss any questions here. I think I have one more from Jody I didn't touch on. Naomi, this is for you. You work with very prestigious global institutions. What services, qualities do your clients most value in your company?
Yes, I would say that they trust us to have international knowledge. So one client who organizes events for a Fortune 10 company, we'll say, that we've worked with for a while, they call us because they know that wherever they go in the world, we'll know people and be connected and have the answers of how to get things done in that location. So that goes back to knowing people that speak the language, being able to find the local interpreters, but also everything else, the vendors and the companies, and we feel at home anywhere in the world, and they trust us to have that global knowledge.
Yeah, what a great answer. I feel like when I work on our marketing team too, and when I talk about even the difference between studying abroad and just going on vacation, it sounds very similar to what you're saying, right? Like having people who are connected and able to give you an experience that is more authentic and less surface level. I think we do live a little bit in the age of influencers doing their bucket lists, and they take a picture in Paris and then they're off to this place and the next place and the next place. And what I'm hearing from both of you is it's not even just the face-to-face being able to speak a language, but being able to kind of set some roots and connect and have a
Yes.
local connection.
And you have to follow through.
Yeah, that's very.
You can't just send one picture.
I love, yes, exactly. Like have an experience, make a connection. It's so much more meaningful. So
You bet. You bet.
well, we are almost at time here, my friends. This has been absolutely lovely. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and about your time abroad. I could just listen to you both talk forever, but I know, Naomi, it's probably quite late where you are. So
And I have an early morning with NATO tomorrow.
oh yeah. We appreciate again your precious time, both of you. And I want to just again mention the ALC Bridge as an amazing resource for our recent grads. And then obviously, Naomi, Kathleen, if you have any parting words for our audience.
Well, I'm gonna give I'm gonna give a sentence.
Okay.
I want to go to IES Abroad again and go to the Galapagos.
You know what? We need to make this happen. I'm gonna connect with some people and we'll figure something out. But in the meantime, I know we do have an alumni weekend coming up for our very special 75th. So
Yes.
hopefully that can be a nice stand-in while we figure out some programming for you, Kathleen.
We'll be in Chicago.
Yes, thank you.
For the students, I would say capitalize on your experience abroad and make it your life. IES doesn't end at the end of the year or the end of the semester. It becomes part of who you are. That was certainly the case for me. Like I said, I went to Vienna. I never left my heart. I went back last week. I've been back several other times. I still feel like it's home. And that is a wonderful thing to feel 40 years later.
You betcha. And I've been back to Nantes, and it's terribly chic now. They
Right?
even have an Hermès shop in Nantes.
It was a big deal when Granada got a Starbucks and we were like, oh my gosh, they're taking over. But oh, well, what a beautiful note to end on. I think we'll cap it at that and let Naomi get some sleep. Thank you both again. And feel free, again, for all of our listeners, connect with us on LinkedIn, connect with these two lovely ladies. And we wish you a happy rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.